Right off the top, the Trump administration descends on Europe for high-level conversations. It comes just days after President Donald Trump made the shocking announcement that negotiations will start with Russia to end the war in Ukraine. Vice President J.D. Vance is on the ground in Germany today for the the Munich Security Conference. He sat down with the president of Germany to discuss President Trump's demand to NATO allies, basically saying step up defense spending. Vance then addressed conference members to double down on the importance of sharing the burden of NATO responsibilities. Let's take a listen to some of those remarks.
Because as President Trump has made abundantly clear, he believes that our European friends must play a bigger role in the future of this continent. We don't think you hear this term, burden sharing, but we think it's an important part of being in a shared alliance together that the Europeans step up while America focuses on areas of the world that are in great danger.
And moments from now, the vice president will meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky alongside Secretary of State Marco Rubio. We'll bring you anything from those remarks as soon as they come into our newsroom. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth visited Poland for a bilateral meeting with the defense minister there. He was clear about this. Do not count on the United States troops to be in Europe. It comes as President Trump vows to pull the U.S. from the global stage to focus on military efforts on immigration and possible threats from China. Hegseth also stood by his comments on Ukraine. Take a listen.
Now is the time to invest, because you can't make an assumption that America's presence will last forever. The reality that returning to 2014 as borders as part of a negotiated settlement is unlikely. The reality of U.S. troops in Ukraine is unlikely. The reality of Ukraine membership in NATO as a part of a negotiated settlement, unlikely. And I stand by the comments that I made on that first day in the Ukraine contact group.
And we have our team on the ground following all angles of the story. BBC correspondents Vernon and James Waterhouse will have the latest from Poland and Ukraine, but we'll get to them in just a few moments. Let's bring in CBS News reporter Anna Noryskiewicz. And Anna, thank you for joining us today. Can you recap what we heard so far from Vance in Munich?
Hi, Mugo. This was a very highly anticipated speech here at the Munich Security Conference. And the speech from Vance had a pretty strong America First approach. There were three key themes in his speech. First and foremost, he said, and he kept emphasizing, that the biggest threat to Europe comes from within. Migration and security. He urged European nations to take stronger action against illegal migration and unchecked migration here on the continent. And then defense spending, saying that America can't take responsibility for security issues on the continent, and that Europe has to step up and spend more on defense. And the third main theme was the democratic values and free speech. And he criticized as he declined, that the free speech and religious freedom across Europe is in decline.
Okay, Anna, as we said, we know there's a meeting between Vance and Zelensky, and that is set to happen any moment now. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is also scheduled to attend that meeting. What are we watching for there when they all meet?
So the Munich Security Conference, of course, has its eyes on Ukraine and the future of Ukraine. So also this meeting is highly anticipated, while European leaders are concerned that they might be sidelined while the U.S. is leading the negotiations here. And of course, they are pushing for renewed negotiations, but the path to peace is still uncertain. And it is important to say that Zelensky and Ukrainian lawmakers made it very clear that for them, they will only be a peace when sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine is stabilized. And also Vance said that there might be consequences for Russia if there's an unfair deal with Ukraine, but he hasn't clarified what exactly he means. So right now they're about to meet any minute, and we're anticipating to hear what comes out of it.
Okay, Anna Noryskiewicz, thank you so much for your time today. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stressed the significance of his visit to Poland during his meeting with his counterpart today. We want to play some of that for you. Listen in.
I do want to emphasize that it's quite intentional that our first European bilateral is right here in Poland. The symbolism is not lost. In fact, it is intentional. We see Poland as the model ally on the continent.
All right, so let's bring in BBC News Europe correspondent Vernon for more on this. Thank you for joining us today. Why is Poland so critical during these Ukraine war negotiations, and what else came out of those meetings with Hegseth?
Well, as we heard a little bit earlier, Pete Hegseth said he stood by those pretty incendiary comments he made in Brussels earlier this week that it was unlikely that Ukraine would join NATO or go back to its pre-2014 borders. And Mr. Hegseth said he was just being realistic. He also said that it's too early to kind of set the framework or the terms of any possible negotiation over Ukraine, and that was up to Donald Trump to decide and not him. But of course, critics say that, well, actually, that's exactly what you've done by dismissing any prospect of NATO membership or of Ukraine getting its land back. You have already defined the parameters of that possible negotiation process. But the main message that Mr. Hegseth brought here to Warsaw today was that European countries need to do more, need to spend more on defence. He said that Poland is a model ally because it leads by example, right? Warsaw has massively increased military spending in recent years. It's now almost 5% of GDP. And Mr. Hegseth said that other European nations should basically take a leaf out of Poland's book. He said, one thing he said, which I think will cause quite a lot of concern here in Eastern Europe, was that Europeans shouldn't assume that the American military presence on the continent will last forever. Now is the time to invest, he said, in beefing up European military capabilities. But this country, Poland, shares borders with both Ukraine and Russia. It has a long and painful history of Russian occupation. And many officials in Poland are pretty alarmed, to put it mildly, by the mood music coming out of Washington that appears to undermine the unity of the NATO alliance. And that is why Poland is now at great speed building the largest army in Europe. It hosts 10,000 US troops on its territory. And I think that is the priority, that was the priority in those talks with Mr. Hegseth today for Polish officials, to secure the future of that American military presence inside Poland.
Okay, Vernon, thank you for your insight there. We appreciate your time today. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky responding to all of these updates today. He spoke with reporters after his arrival to Munich Security Conference.
I think, Tuama, that he's preparing the war against NATO countries next year. And I think so. But I don't know, I don't have 100. God bless, we will stop this crazy guy. And we will not have any war in the world, in Europe, but you will not stop him just to say, yes, he said that, we will stop. It's not enough. And that's why, how to stop it, security guarantees for us. No, I hope no, but it will be very strange. If the policy of the United States will change, will shift to Russia. I think, there are a lot of voices, different voices, so some of them respectable, some of them are not too much.
All right, BBC News Ukraine correspondent James Waterhouse joining us now from Kyiv. James, thanks for being here. What else are we hearing from officials in Ukraine about the negotiation between Russia and the United States?
Well, you heard it there from President Zelensky. He is trying to get Ukraine back at the negotiating table. He's often used a phrase that there can be no talks on Ukraine without Ukraine. And I think those fears have materialized this week, where you have this warm conversation between Trump and Putin, and you have, once again, America laying out its vision for both this future security of Ukraine and Europe. America has said to Europe, you've got to step up in your defense spending. As for here, there is a genuine feeling of betrayal. Of course, people want peace. And I don't think, while what we've heard from the White House is unsurprising, given the messaging beforehand, most of the anger here seems to be aimed at President Zelensky in terms of how he has undertaken this war, mobilised soldiers, and how he hasn't got ahead of Donald Trump's second term in trying to sort of get those assurances. But we are where we are, where Ukraine has this information vacuum, where, OK, America has said it will never join NATO. America has said it won't put boots on the ground. And Ukraine will see this, and Volodymyr Zelensky will see this as something to play for, where he will try and get what security guarantees he can. But I've got to tell you, it's the most isolated I think we've seen Ukraine politically, off the back of what America has said and off the back of this warming relationship between Moscow and Washington. Because the question here being asked is, well, what has Vladimir Putin been promised? A relaxation of sanctions, a retention of almost all of the territory he has taken. There are a lot of daunting unknowns at such a crucial time.
All right. Thank you, James Waterhouse, for that reporting.